Have you ever left your mobile phone in the car or neglected to pick up a carton of milk on the way home? As unlikely as it might seem, scientists say these relatively minor lapses of memory are not that far removed from a tragic and common phenomenon: parents forgetting their children and leaving them locked in cars in the summer heat. Are the parents at fault, or are our busy modern lives the real reason for a surge in these tragedies? You'll be surprised by the answer. Here's PJ Madam. What kind of mother or father forgets their baby?
Before my son's death, I would say an irresponsible parent, someone that didn't have their priorities straight. After my son died, I would say any loving parent.
This is a story about memory and how, under the right circumstances, it can play the cruelest trick, sometimes with catastrophic results.
911.
Yes, we need. Did you get it, sir? We got someone on the phone with an operator right now.
Where are you?
Charlottesville, Virginia. We have a toddler that's passed out and not doing well.
Does anybody know CPR?
The mother's performing CPR right now.
Okay, we've got help on the way.
Lynn Balfour is desperately trying to save her 9-month-old son, who she has just found unconscious in the back seat of her car.
I was hoping that it wasn't too late. So I started screaming for someone to call 911, and I took him out of the car and I began CPR.
Oh my God, no!
And I prayed to God to take me instead, to please not take him. And after about another 10 minutes, another doctor came in and she told me that they couldn't save him, that he was gone. And I sat there and said to myself, how am I going to tell my husband that I killed his son? Bryce was such a happy, bubbly little baby. He never cried. My mom often says that she thinks that he had such a wonderful, special personality because he probably knew he wasn't going to be here for very long.
Lynn is a smart, devoted mum. She's also a US Army reservist who has served twice in Iraq. Her husband Jarrett is in the Army too. She runs her family with military precision. So how was it she left son Bryce locked in her SUV for 7 hours in the heat of the day? He died from heat stroke because she forgot he was in the car.
I managed $47 million worth of projects in Iraq with every penny accounted for the US military. How can I forget my son?
Somehow, maybe you think you're protected. And it's funny how our minds work that way. It can't happen to me because I'm not that bad parent, which is the biggest mistake you can ever make. Because this has happened, in most cases, to some of the best parents.
It's a phenomenon so widespread, Jeanette Fennell runs a lobby group devoted to its prevention.
Oh boy.
Her website, Kids in Cars, is full of pictures of babies and toddlers who've perished after being left in a hot car.
This is the second case already this year. People need to understand these are not failures of love. This is a failure of our memory. And we should all be working together to do whatever we can to save these babies' lives. I want them to understand that those faces are from everyday families and that they're blessed that this just didn't happen to them.
When I had Gannon, I had 3 driving routes I tested to see which one I felt safest driving with 2 kids in the car. I'm very safety oriented.
When baby Gannon was born, Stephanie Sylvia felt her family was complete.
You know, everything in the house had been in pairs, me and my husband, and then our dogs were in a pair. And so Mackenzie would have her pair. And so, you know, it was pretty exciting, you know, exciting times.
Then the unimaginable happened.
And I got in my car and I sat down. I looked in the rearview mirror and I saw him in the rearview mirror. And I just started screaming, no, no.
On July 23rd, 2009, 5-month-old Gannon Working died the same way Bryce did 2 years earlier, in almost identical circumstances. He had been left in a hot car while his mother went to work. Incredibly, both mothers were convinced they had dropped their babies at daycare.
Still to this day, it's the only memory I have of dropping them off. I know now, you know, what really happened, and but still to this day, it's the only memory I have.
Gannon died of heat stroke after being left in a car under the hot Florida sun for 8 hours. The temperature inside a car can be up to 30 degrees warmer than outside. 75% of the temperature rise occurs within 5 minutes of closing the car, 90% within 15 minutes. Right now, the temperature outside is 34 degrees. We've parked the car, we've got the windows up, and I've locked myself inside. I've got my thermometer with me, so let's see what happens. Just hit 36 degrees. Yeah, it's hot and it's sticky, and I am sweating. I'm heating up quickly, but children's body temperatures warm at a rate 3 to 5 times faster. Oh, this is gross. Just hit 39 degrees. I can actually feel my heart starting to beat faster. I think I better bail. This is getting too much. It's 41 degrees. Oh, man. Oh, God. Holy moly. God, I'm out of breath. My heart's racing. That was intense. That was something else. I couldn't help but think about a child's little body. They can't sweat like we do. And they don't have the same inbuilt thermostat like an adult does. And when the core body temperature gets to about 41 degrees, which that was inside, your cells become damaged, and that's it. Your vital organs just shut down.
I know, based on what I've felt, being in Iraq, and it's 120-something degrees outside, how miserable and they're suffering.
Is that somewhat of a reminder, almost like a trigger, every time you're in a situation where it's hot, you're sweating, it feels oppressive? Does your mind go back to Bryce?
Absolutely. Almost every time.
Both Lynn Balfour and Stephanie Sylvia faced criminal charges for their memory failures.
Prison made this even worse. No, I mean, I live with this every day, every time I go to my car.
Stephanie was charged with aggravated manslaughter.
It was a surreal moment, but not a moment that I really cared about because I had too much grief going on. So I just went through the motions and
Prosecutors in Lynn's case were much tougher. She was charged with second-degree murder and faced up to 40 years in jail.
They waited until the day of my son's funeral to charge me.
Both juries had to ask themselves, how is it possible that a parent or carer can forget a child?
There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about him.
So you're a memory expert?
Yes, I'm a memory expert.
And how would you rate yourself when it comes to memory?
I'm rather poor at memory myself. I'm the memory expert with a lousy memory. And so they're capable of gaining greater control.
Professor David Diamond has spent the past 10 years focused on how someone could leave a baby in a car all day because they forgot about them.
Well, there is a neurological explanation for why people leave children in cars, but it has nothing to do with pathology. It's not about brain damage. It's really about normal brain functioning in which we remember one thing and we forget something else.
Professor Diamond's research shows that different parts of the brain's memory system can compete, resulting in memory failure. It happens when the habit-forming part of the brain overrides the multitasking and fact-based part of the brain. A simple and benign example is forgetting to buy milk on the drive home from work.
And in fact, when you get home and you look in the refrigerator and you see that you haven't picked up the milk, now your hippocampus, in a sense, is booted. It's activated. And it reminds you that you had intended to go to the store. What happens in forgotten baby syndrome? This failure of the hippocampus and frontal cortex to interrupt the basal ganglia in its functioning.
This so-called forgotten baby syndrome is most likely to happen when fatigue, stress, and in particular, a change in routine happen at once. When you break down Lynn Balfour's case, it's easy to understand why hers was the perfect storm.
What you first had was that she was sleep deprived. In fact, she had actually been up with her child during the night as well as a neighbor's child. So sleep deprivation is one factor that actually biases the habit system to be able to outcompete the fact-based system.
That fatal morning, Lynn's routine changed.
Jarrett loaded up Bryce first before I came out.
Jarrett would normally drive himself to work, but on this day, he needed a lift. As a consequence, he put both the baby seat and the nappy bag in a different place than usual.
Her husband had placed the diaper bag on the floor in the back seat, and her child was in a car seat which was behind the driver's side, facing away from her, which was actually not the normal position. And so she didn't see the child, didn't hear her child throughout the drive.
Hi, babe.
Bye.
She dropped me off at work. I told her goodbye.
I'll pick you up later.
Okay. I gave Bryce a kiss goodbye, told him I would see him later, and then I went into work.
And in between me dropping Jared off and dropping Bryce off at the home care provider, I got a phone call from work, and we had an emergency. Hello, this is Lynn. Hi, yes, Sergeant Major.
So all of her attention was focused on this crisis, which then diverted her attention away from being aware that her child was in the car.
Okay, bye. So when I got off the phone, I continued on to work, got out of my vehicle and went into the building, not realizing that I had never dropped Bryce off.
And the real tragedy here is that now Lynn is at work and she's looking at her picture of her child through the day, talking about her child, just saying everything that a normal, attentive, and loving parent would say, planning on picking up the child at daycare at the end of the day, fully unaware that her child was in her car.
If you would have asked me or given me a lie detector test even today, I would tell you that he was at the daycare provider's house and that he was okay and he was fine.
I don't consider this poor parenting. I consider this an adaptive process in which we have these interacting brain memory systems. And it's just a matter of chance that some people just happen to be caught up in this combination of events that results in good parents forgetting their children. So I don't categorize it as bad parenting.
David Diamond's expertise has crossed many borders. He's been an expert witness in a number of court cases around the world where children have died in hot cars, including for Bendigo mum Jade Poole. She was charged but then acquitted of the manslaughter of her daughter Belle in 2012.
I actually think my part in that case was to help the jury just to understand how this can happen. People understood the phenomenon better and they were less judgmental of Jade. If you have no awareness, then what you have is a tragedy, but it is not a crime.
Stephanie Salvia was convicted of leaving Gannon unattended, causing great bodily damage, and served 5 years probation. By the time Lynn faced court, her murder charge was downgraded to manslaughter. It took a jury in a Charlottesville court just 90 minutes to reach a unanimous verdict acquitting Lynn Balfour of the manslaughter of her son, Bryce. She was saved from 10 years in jail. Instead, she endures a lifetime of grief and guilt.
It doesn't matter whether I went to jail. I'm in a prison every day, every day.
Now, Lynn devotes much of her time to educating new mothers.
Hello, my name is Lynn Balfour, and I just want to ask a few questions. Has anyone ever forgotten their cell phone? Has anyone ever forgotten their sunglasses?
It's part of a promise she made to Bryce.
I made a promise that I would educate as many people, no matter how long it took, to make sure that no one had to feel the way I did every day, that I would make sure his death wasn't for nothing. Has anyone ever forgotten their purses? If you have ever forgotten one of those things, you can absolutely forget your child.
We're talking about an industry who already knows we're forgetful. We have a reminder to put on our seatbelt. We have a reminder if we leave our key in the ignition. We have a reminder if our gas is getting low. We have a reminder if we let the door open.
Jeanette Fennell wants legislation to have a baby seat alarm system built into cars at manufacture stage.
Somehow, all of our cars tell us if we've left our headlights on, because nobody wants a dead battery. But it's okay to have a dead baby? Now, wait a second. I'll take a dead battery any day of the week if I can get a protection so that little babies don't get inadvertently left behind.
Now, as sole parent, Stephanie Salvia feels at least she has an explanation for the death of her son.
Memories are very vulnerable. Your brain has remembered something incorrectly, and because it's your brain and it's what you rely on, you're a victim of it. You have absolutely no idea that it's lying to you. Absolutely no idea.
Lynn and Jarrett have had 4 more children since Bryce died.
Mommy's got her nice clothes on.
And while Jarrett knows Lynn was responsible, he does not blame her.
I think for me, knowing that it was an accident, she would never intentionally leave him in the car, is how I've been able to move along with her in our relationship.
I've talked to parents straight to their, face and in person that have told me it could never happen to them. And I ask them one question. Are you willing to bet your child's life on it, that it would never happen to you? Are you willing to do that? Because if you're not, whether you agree with me or not, you have to read the information and take the necessary precautions.